So today I wanted to touch on a question a lot of farms are asking themselves right now, cattle farms specifically, about do I keep open heifers or roll the dice and see about buying bred heifers come fall? So I'm a big believer and buyer into of sell-by marketing, of which one of the first concepts are don't try and predict the future, don't base your decisions off the past, base your decision on what the numbers are today. I wanted to touch on an intrinsic value calculation that'll help producers decide whether those open heifers that I've got in the feedlot, does it make sense to expose them to a bull over this summer, or markets are record high, maybe it's a good time to just cash in. So what we need, and of course people are going to say that's too low or that's too high. So my coworker and I, Keegan, picked a value on 7-weight heifers as far as what the value is today. So on a 7-weight heifer, we went with $5.25 a pound, which got us to $3,675 for an open heifer today. Now, that doesn't do us any good because we've got a pile of investment and time to invest in that heifer to figure out if there's cash to be made on this purchase, even though we're just keeping that heifer. So a $3,675 invested in an open heifer today, whether we're keeping our own or we're going to buy a heifer. Of course, we've got some open sales that some of these open heifer prices are getting crazy, but we're just basing this on market price today if we can buy those animals at that cost. So for this exercise, we're just going to use the costs on my farm. You might say that they're a little bit high, but we kind of pride ourselves that every single expense that we actually have on the farm, including machinery depreciation, time, bull depreciation, stuff like that, is factored in that number, which is $3.93 a day. So to get a proper valuation, because we're going to use the value of a bred heifer today, which I'm going to use about $6,000. Now, I know there's some that are selling for outrageously more, and some people are getting some deals somewhere, but we're going to use $6,000. So with our $3,675 buy-in, we're going to tack on my price, which is $3.93 a day, which gives you an equivalent value of that heifer a year out of $5,110, $5,109 and change. So if we're valuing a bred heifer today at $6,000 and we have invested $5,110 into that heifer, we've got $890 in intrinsic value. So one, that tells you if you're thinking about it and you don't have cash flow issues, you just want to make the best decision for your farm, that is a good investment. If you're going to get $3,675 for that heifer at the auction barn and she's a good enough heifer to breed, then it's a good idea to keep that heifer, expose her to a bull, put the investment in, because based on what the market is telling us today, there's going to be value there. It's a better deal for you to keep your own than to go and purchase somebody else's bred heifers this fall. The other opportunity is okay, maybe I don't want to, we're not in a cash flow situation where we need to sell that animal for $3,675, but add in the expenses. Now, a year from now, if that heifer is worth $6,000, we can actually, and we're not interested in calving her, we can actually, there's $890 there of profit if we were to sell her on that heifer. So really simple example of how to calculate intrinsic value. It can get much more complicated than that if you're talking about different classes and whatnot, but really simple calculation that farms should consider, and you should of course consider your cash flow considerations. I know if it's anything like my farm, cash is not always flowing, but if it's something where you have the cash around or you're interested, you got a nice group of heifers and are interested in keeping them, the intrinsic value calculation is saying today, based on market valuation, that animal is undervalued. So if we want that to take that intrinsic value to zero, basically we take our $3,675, we add in $810. You should not be selling that heifer for less, again, if cash flow wasn't a concern, for 40, that heifer today, breedable heifer, is worth $4,485. So in theory, you could go out and purchase open heifers for $4,480 if your expenses are the same as mine. And that is your break even on selling a bred heifer at $6,000. So hopefully that cleared it up a little bit, or gave you a super simple tool to use when trying to figure out these calculations. I always give a shout outs to the people that kind of taught me. If you type in Wally Olson into YouTube, you get a lot of good stuff there. Also, there's a number of podcasts, the Ranchonomics podcast, the Herd Quitter podcast, Ranching Returns, many episodes. They cover intrinsic value and proper cow valuation. So hopefully you learned something. Have a great day.